Aloha, my name is Jared Chang. I am a planner with SSFM International Inc. And on behalf of the State of Hawaii Department of Transportation, welcome to the Farrington Highway Corridor Study Virtual ʻāina Meeting Round 3. Thank you for visiting this online presentation. Let's get started. We're going to start by introducing our project team and reviewing the presentation goals. This HDOT Highways Division study is being conducted by the Highways Planning Branch under Ken Tatsuguchi. The HDOT project manager is Patrick Tom, and he is supported by Jill Tanabe, Pua Ayu, and Shelly Kuneshige. SSFM International is the prime consultant for HDOT, and our team is led by Susan Lebron with support by SSFM planners and traffic engineers, as well as a Westside community outreach team, including Puanani Burgess, Puaena Burgess, Pat Uchi Gakuyuchi, Dr. Lelemia Irvine, and Oceanit. In this presentation, we will be providing a project status update and share what we have heard so far through community outreach. Then we'll present the proposed solutions, phasing, and priorities based on community input, and finally share how you can continue to provide your input to the project team. Goals for this meeting include continuing collaboration with the Westside communities to develop solutions for Farrington Highway, reporting or sharing back with you the community input that has been received so far, presenting the priority solutions for each community, and continuing community outreach on priorities and phasing via our online open house webpage and upcoming virtual Q&A sessions. So let's start with a quick overview of the project. This project by the DOT Highways Division is conducting a study to determine the long-term vision and management for Farrington Highway Corridor, Route 93. The study will be analyzing and identifying short and long-term multimodal solutions that address safety, congestion, and resilience. On this slide, we're showing a flow chart showing the planning steps in the study. We are currently in the third and final round of ʻāina meetings with the community to discuss solution priorities and phasing. This will then lead to recommendations for the priority short and long-term projects and more coordination with each community and neighborhood boards. This slide is showing you a list of our technical studies done to date, just to give you some background. We've conducted essentially two major reports to support the early planning process. This is the operations assessment, looking at the way the highway operates, and a second axis report that reviewed the prior and ongoing efforts looking at a second axis into the west side. Finally, as part of this project, we are working with Oceanit to engage students and teachers in a program that utilizes Oceanit's Aloha AI technology. This is a multi-session student program that they volunteer for to have students and teachers learn and use artificial intelligence to solve real-world problems and questions. The Aloha AI program is currently underway, and the sensors that they plan to use, which are cellular based, are being readied for implementation in July. Once they collect the counts from these sensors, they'll be uploaded to an online database with access for each student. And the counts will be used to assist in this study, looking at each multimodal solution, as well as the 5th lane extension from Nānākuli up to Hakimo Road. And that concludes the quick update of the project status. I'm going to turn it over now to Melissa May, who's going to discuss the community mana'o that we've heard so far.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Melissa May. I'm a planner with SSFM, and I'm going to be going over some of the highlights of community input to date from all of our engagement efforts. And you can find the documentation from a lot of these prior meetings on the project website, which we'll list later in the presentation. But just a brief recap of what we've done so far. We've been coordinating with agencies and elected officials throughout the project to distribute information to the community. And we've also met with the neighborhood boards and done presentations and coordinated with their transportation committees. We've met with Westside stakeholders. We conducted a drive and walk audit of the project area in February. We've partnered with Oceanit as well as Westside community engagement specialists to coordinate with schools and design youth engagement programs like Jared described previously. And then we've done 2 rounds of ʻāina meetings. So round 1 was back in February where we had in-person meetings when it was pre-COVID. Round 2 was virtual, and that occurred in May where we presented preliminary solutions and had a virtual open house as well as Q&A sessions. And then finally, we distributed a survey and interactive map where people could tell us how they get around the area, what issues and opportunities they see, and share their ideas for needs and solutions. And so today I'm going to focus on recapping the input that we heard on the preliminary solutions that we presented at ʻāina meetings round 2. And again, if you want to see any of the results from prior input, visit the project website to download those summaries. So ʻāina meetings round 2 focused on solutions for safety, congestion, and resilience. And on each of these slides, you'll see a map with numbered solutions, and this is what was presented at that meeting. These materials are also available online for you to study closer. But basically, just to briefly summarize what the community had to say, we heard support for traffic calming and speed control measures. People generally agreed that speed was one of the biggest issues when it came to safety. They wanted to see more pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements. People supported the idea of a shared use path along the railway alignment and for converting the bridge to nowhere in Nānākuli to be able to be used by pedestrians. They also wanted to see more raised crosswalks and crossing treatments, and we talked about prohibiting right turns on red for pedestrian safety as well as bicycles. People expressed concerns about the visibility of the existing raised crosswalks, and DOT agreed already to add striping to address that. And they also were concerned about the long wait times to cross the highway, especially for pedestrians. Solutions for congestion mostly focused on the timing and the urgency of the need to address congestion on the west side. And so people supported the idea of extending the 5th lane through Nānākuli as the major traffic bottleneck. People also liked the idea of providing center turn lanes where possible to take turning vehicles out of the travel way and help reduce delay that way. They expressed concern about available funding for Westside projects, making sure that these projects are a priority and will get the funding. They also expressed concern about signal timing because the long wait times for pedestrians crossing the highway and cars trying to turn off of the side streets can be an issue. And just emphasizing the timing and the urgency of the need for improvements to this area. And then finally, our discussion about resilience mainly focused on the second access and the need for long-term second access as a solution. And people understood and were concerned with the timing and the feasibility due to the cost and complexity and the multiple agencies that would be involved. We also talked about drainage as a solution to resilience. And with that, my portion of the presentation is over, and I will hand it over to Sue LeBrun.
Aloha, everybody. This is Susan LeBrun. I'm the project manager for this, and I'm also a traffic engineer. So in the second round of ʻāina meetings, we went through and we showed an extensive corridor from end to end showing all the improvements for safety, and then a map for congestion and a map for resilience. With the exception of the second access, which is a more of a regional and a multi-agency project, we've taken those recommendations and we're zooming in by community. So if you could, next slide, please, Melissa. So the first community we'll be addressing is the Mākaha Waianae community. And in here, I've listed the safety solutions, 2 intersections that will need, that we're recommending improvements are Army Street and Puhanu Street. So Army Street is unsignalized, and there's a lot of people crossing there. So our recommendations include signing and marking improvements, a pedestrian hybrid beacon or RRFB, and a pedestrian refuge island in the middle. Then for Puhanu Street, it's the signing and marking improvements, a leading ped interval at the signal. That's where the walk light starts just about 3 to 5 seconds before the green light for traffic in that direction. So pedestrians can get out in the crosswalk before cars start moving. And then adding a left turn lane and a raised median. So also as a safety improvement, people were complaining about areas of darkness along the crossings and at the sidewalks. So we're recommending bright street lighting for both the signalized and unsignalized crosswalks. We're also recommending the speed feedback signs, both at the north end by Kili Drive and the south end by Lihoku. That's where it's 25 miles per hour, and people just need to slow down and be reminded how fast they're going coming into there to control the speed. We have the computerized traffic control system that's already being designed. So there's 6 traffic signals that will be upgraded, made more high-tech. They'll be optimized and synchronized better. And it will also allow people to come out roughly at the same time so that while the lights on Farrington are red, the traffic from the side streets and the pedestrians can do make their movements. And for resilience, there was a concern about sand and wave overwash near Mākaha Valley Road. So we're recommending a berm or a wall there. And then the drainage at Waianae Valley Road and Lihoku Street is poor. And so we're recommending to do a study for the drainage and drainage improvements. Next slide. So we assigned costs to each of these improvements. And you can see them here divided into the safety, congestion, and resilience bins. And then on the next slide, we've prioritized them and given them phases 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 is more short-term, 6 months to 2 years, and that's something we can do quickly because it's within the right-of-way, and at least for those first ones, they're pretty low cost. And they have a high benefit to cost ratio, can be easily implemented. Then there's the short-term medium cost for increasing the illuminance on the streetlights. And that's, there's 20 crosswalks. So this assumes a new pole at each end of each crosswalk. So it's getting up there to $700,000. And then for the computerized traffic control system, that's already a City and County of Honolulu project that's underway. Then for the 2 to 5 year time frame, there's building the rock veneer wall at Mākaha Valley Road. That will probably be about a $1.4 million effort, but it will also need permitting because it's outside the right-of-way. However, it's needed, and people are getting sand on the road there and having to deal with that and removing it almost every day. So that could be considered an intermediate term priority. And then also the focused drainage studies at Lihoku Street and Waianae Valley Road. All right, next slide. The next community is in Maili. And here too, we're recommending the signalized and unsignalized crosswalks get bright street lighting. There's 4 intersections that will have improvements listed there. There's the adding sidewalks and shoulder bike lanes in the segment from Maili'ili down to Kaukama. And then there's the short segment up near the top left of the drawing here. That yellow dashed line shows where we're suggesting to add a center left turn lane. That's where the businesses are located and where most of the southbound left turns will be taking place. So just for that short segment, adding a center left turn lane, I think will take a lot of the left turners out of the through lanes and help traffic to keep flowing. Then there's the two segments of the shared use path from Lehoku to Maileili and from Kaukama to Hakimo that we're recommending. Next slide. So we've broken those costs, there's this typical section. This shows the existing section between Kaukama and Maileili. And then the next slide shows the proposed. We already have the shoulders here, but on the next slide, you'll see that we're showing what it looks like with that center two-way left turn lane on that short segment. And also there's sidewalks on each side with curb and gutter. Next slide. We have these costs broken down into the safety and congestion bins. And then if you go to the next slide, we can see how they're phased. Phase 1 and 2, short term and intermediate term. The short term includes those quickly implemented low cost countermeasures with the high benefit to cost ratio. And then there's increasing the illuminance on the crosswalks and adding the center left turn lane for the medium cost. And then the short term that we'd like to add in the computerized traffic control system in Maileili for 7 signals, just as they're doing in Nānākuli and ʻāina. So then the intermediate term would be the shared use path segments from Maileili to Lehoku and Kaukama to Hakimo. They are outside the right of way, so it will take more time for permitting and then survey and design. Then finally, the adding the sidewalk and shoulder bike lanes will take a little bit of time because there might be some right-of-way taking, and it just will take some time for survey and design and also budgeting that amount of money. All right, next slide. Finally, we get to Nānākuli. And in Nānākuli, we're recommending intersection improvements at 6 intersections. They're all signalized except for Lomania, which is a stop controlled. And we're recommending to prohibit the left out movement there because of the crash history. And also it's easy for them to go over to Piliakahi to make that move. We're also adding in the computerized traffic control system that's already being budgeted and worked on. And we're recommending to expand that to include La'aloa and Waimea over near the southeast end of the project. We're recommending a short right turn lane at Haleakala for that side street coming in, so the right turners don't need to wait behind the left turners or at that intersection. And then also recommending the speed feedback signs here for the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit zone. Finally, the 5th lane is being planned between Helelua and Hakimo. And as they design that project, the hope is that they can also design in the shared use path and upgrade and widen the Mākaha sidewalk. There's drainage study and drainage improvements recommended at Princess Kahanu, and that too is within the 5th lane project. So hopefully that can all be packaged together. Next slide. We have a typical section of what it looks like right now. It's just the 4 lanes of traffic, a small shoulder and 5-foot protected pedestrian path on the Mākaha side and a 1-foot shoulder on the Makai side. Next slide. So you can see the center contraflow lane is planned, and then just additional shoulders, curb and gutter on the Mākaha side, and then the shared use path on the Makai side. Next slide. We separated the costs into the safety, congestion, and resilience bins. And then on the next slide, we're showing priorities and phasing, 6 months to 2 years, 2 to 5 year, and the 5 to 10 year. Again, the short-term improvements include those low-cost countermeasures that can be easily implemented and have a high benefit to cost ratio. And we're adding lighting at 13 crosswalks, and this assumes all new poles. So it's possible there's poles and infrastructure that can already be used there, and then it would bring that cost down. So the short term, that's more of a high cost, is the extension of the 5th lane. That project has already been earmarked with funding from the rental car surcharge. So timing could hinge on how quickly that money comes in. And then there's a computerized traffic control system that's already under design. And we're recommending to expand that to include those other 2 signals at La'aloa and Waimea. For the intermediate term, it would be building the shared use path in the segment from Nānākuli to Pohakanui, and then the upgrading and widening the sidewalk from Pohakanui to Helulua is a $10 million project. It would take more time just to do the survey and design and just budget for that. Then on the this one has a 3rd phase because it's longer term. The shared use path from Pohakanui to Ko'olina is about 10,000 feet, and it also involves 7 bridges, which will need more funding and just more partnering with other agencies. So that's a lot to take in, I know, but I'd like you to just study those 3 communities and the improvements we're suggesting and the phasing we're suggesting. And you're welcome to give input because we're listening. So with that, I'll give it back to Jared.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Let's get into the next steps. So on this slide, we are showing you the website address to get to the virtual open house and forum. It's your place to review posted materials, take a poll, ask questions, and give us your comments. The open house will be open from July 6th through July 27th. And if you have any questions, please feel free to email Melissa May from our office, mmay@ssfm.com. In addition to the open house, we will be hosting 2 virtual Q&A sessions, with the first one occurring on July 16th with a focus on Waianae and Mākaha, and the second Q&A session occurring on July 24th with a focus on Nānākuli and Mā'ili. Everyone is welcome to attend. With that, we just want to say mahalo for your time and joining us at this presentation. Be well and stay safe. Aloha.